At the start of the story, we are introduced to a young man named Lee Jung. He has a deep passion for Judo, karate, and various forms of martial arts. He also holds a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo. Outside of training, Lee enjoys spending his free time having fun with his friends. We are then introduced to Lee's father, who owns a small restaurant. Every evening, after completing his regular work, Lee helps his father by working as a food delivery rider. One night, while returning home after a delivery, Lee notices a fight taking place on an empty street. A police officer is struggling to arrest a criminal. Without hesitating, Lee steps in to help the officer. Just as the criminal is about to strike the policeman with a broken glass bottle, Lee arrives and saves him. Even after being subdued, the criminal refuses to cooperate. Lee then delivers a powerful kick, knocking the criminal unconscious. While checking the criminal, Lee notices a black electronic band tied around his ankle. He is confused about what the device is meant for. The injured police officer, Venice, is deeply impressed by Lee's courage. Due to his serious injuries, Venice is admitted to the hospital. Lee is later honored by the police department for his bravery. Soon after, another officer named Park comes to meet Lee. Park explains that around 500 people in the city are wearing similar black ankle bands. These bands act as GPS trackers used to monitor criminals recently released from prison after serious offenses. The police track their movements to stop them from committing crimes again. Park then offers Lee a job working with his unit. At first, Lee refuses the offer. Park explains that the team urgently needs skilled martial artists. Since Venice is badly injured, he will not be able to return to duty for at least a month. Park suggests that Lee temporarily take his place until Venice recovers. Lee's friends encourage him, telling him it is a great opportunity. His father also gives him permission to accept the job. The very next day, Lee officially joins the Special Police Unit. However, this department operates very differently from regular police forces. The officers do not wear uniforms and do not require warrants to question suspects. Their main task is to monitor the locations of criminals through their ankle bands. If a band's battery level drops below 30%, the officers call the criminal and instruct them to recharge it. If the criminal ignores the call or acts suspiciously, the team is sent to their location. They interrogate the suspect and arrest them if necessary. At first, Lee finds the job dull and uninteresting. He begins to doubt whether he can continue working there for long. Suddenly, he notices that one criminal's ankle band battery has dropped below 30%. When Lee calls him, the man hangs up immediately. After checking the criminal's records, they discover he was previously arrested for rape. Without wasting any time, Park takes Lee with him to the suspect's location. Lee noticed that one of the windows in the house was missing an iron bar. He told Park that the suspect had clearly planned his escape by jumping out through that window. Park entered through the main door to catch him, while Lee stayed outside, waiting for the suspect to jump. When Park went inside, he found that the criminal had not changed at all. He was still trying to assault a girl. To escape, the criminal jumped out of the window, but Lee was already waiting outside. Lee struck him with a powerful kick and successfully restrained him. Park was impressed once again by Lee's courage. They arrested the criminal and took him away. Through this incident, Lee realized that the job was both exciting and meaningful. He had also protected the girl's dignity. To Lee, there could be no greater act than this. 2 days later, they went to capture another suspect. This man was suspiciously watching young children playing in a park. Lee wanted to teach the disgusting man a harsh lesson. However, Park stopped him. He warned Lee that using unnecessary force could lead to serious consequences during the investigation. With each passing day, Lee continued to learn something new. Park was very pleased with Lee's bravery and discipline. That evening, Park invited Lee to have dinner with him. Lee asked if he could bring his friends along. His friends never missed a chance for free food. Park agreed and said he would be happy to meet them as well. That night, Lee arrived at the location with his 3 friends. Everyone ate and drank together, enjoying the evening. Park quickly became friendly with Lee's friends. He praised Lee and explained how his presence had made their work much easier. After the gathering ended and they were about to head home, Park received a call from a fellow officer. He was informed about a dangerous criminal who had recently been released from prison after serving 15 years for murder. The man had been out of jail for only a month. He had cut off his ankle tracking band and thrown it away, making him impossible to track. The police had received information that his last known location was nearby. Lee decided to ask his friends for help. One of his friends owned a drone. Using the drone, they quickly located the suspect. Lee went alone to confront him, as Park was unable to keep up with the chase. When Lee arrived, the man attacked him with a knife. Lee dodged the strike and countered with a kick, knocking him down. Before Lee could arrest him, the man grabbed his knife again. He threatened to escape and harm others. The situation became extremely tense for Lee. He was unsure how to handle it. Park began guiding him over the phone, telling him how to control the situation. The man claimed that he had tried to change after being released from prison. However, whenever people saw the ankle band on his leg, they mocked him. Park listened carefully and continued advising Lee. Lee calmly repeated Park's words to the man. He told him not to lose hope. He advised him to ignore what others say. He reminded him to stay on the right path and keep trying to do better. Then within a few months, the ankle band would be removed. After that, he would be able to live a normal life like everyone else. Hearing Lee's words, the man regained some confidence. He agreed and willingly put the ankle band back on. That day, Lee learned that true justice requires caution, not just passion. passion. Soon after, a news channel reported that a highly dangerous criminal named Dong-gu was about to be released from prison. He was an extremely vile man. There were around 15 cases against him involving abuse of children aged 12 or younger. Because of his disturbing past, the police were extremely concerned. They believed there was a high chance he could commit similar crimes again. A few days later, Lee was walking through a crowded market. He noticed a man wearing an ankle bracelet sitting inside a restaurant. The way the man tried to touch a waitress made his intentions obvious. Sensing danger, Lee immediately went to his office to check the man's records. He discovered that the man had previously been imprisoned for rape. His ankle bracelet had already been removed due to legal technicalities. All the signs suggested that the man was planning something terrible. Billy and Park arrived in the area and began searching nearby shops. They focused on places where only women worked. Meanwhile, the suspect slipped away unnoticed. He entered a barbershop owned by a woman. The man attacked her and tried to overpower her. Lee arrived just in time and beat the criminal, stopping another crime from happening. Later, a police meeting was held to decide which unit would monitor Dong-gu. Park confidently spoke up. He said that since their team had a brave officer like Lee, they should be assigned the responsibility. When Lee met Park afterward, he expressed his feelings honestly. He said that he truly loved this job and wanted to do it for the rest of his life. Park was extremely happy to hear this. Soon the day came when Dong-gu was released from prison. Lee and Park went to the prison to complete the ankle band procedure. After securing the tracking device on his leg, a police team escorted him home. Outside his residence, an angry crowd had gathered. People were shouting that someone like Dong-gu did not deserve freedom. Despite the protest, the police team left after dropping him off. Now, the biggest responsibility for Lee and his team was to keep Dong-gu under strict watch. One night, an old friend of Dong-gu secretly came to meet him. They went up to the rooftop of the building and began talking. Their conversation revealed deep resentment toward the police and the ankle band system. The friend's name was Rajar. A few years earlier, both of them had been imprisoned in the same jail. Rajar asked Dong-gu if he had thought about the offer mentioned in the letter. Dong-gu replied that he wanted to accept it. However, he admitted that the ankle band made him nervous. Rajar then told him not to fear the police. He assured him that they would handle everything. 2 days later, Lee noticed Dong-gu leaving his house and heading toward an upscale area. The building Dong-gu entered also had a coaching center for young children. Seeing this, Lee immediately followed him. Dong-gu went down to the basement and met Rajar along with his men. There he learned about their true plan. They were secretly filming obscene videos of children and uploading them to the dark web. They wanted Dong-gu to become part of their operation. For every video, he would receive a large amount of money. To them, it was nothing more than entertainment. Dong-gu showed no shame and accepted the offer without hesitation. Lee had followed Dong-gu to the location. However, the men were sitting inside a car with tinted windows. Lee could not see what was happening inside. He carefully noted the car's license number and left the area. Lee then called Park and informed him that he had lost track of Dong-gu. Park immediately called Dong-gu and asked about his current location. Dong-gu casually replied that he had gone out to eat noodles. Before Lee could reach him, Dong-gu entered a Thai restaurant. Dong-gu already knew he was being monitored. This time, he successfully misled the police. Later, Lee and Park were seen discussing the situation in the office. Lee pointed out that there were several Thai restaurants near Dong-gu's home. There was no reason for him to travel so far just to eat noodles. This made it clear that his visit to that building was intentional. Soon after, the injured officer whose life Lee had saved earlier was discharged from the hospital. He thanked Lee for saving him and gifted him a pair of gloves. With Venice back on duty, the team became even stronger. The next day, a 10-year-old girl was kidnapped while playing. Rajar showed Dong-gu the location where they planned to record the video. The police were quietly monitoring their movements. One night when Dong-gu left his house, Lee secretly followed him. At the same time, the police received an alert about another criminal. His location had changed a few hours earlier, and his ankle band battery had dropped below 30%. Venice called the suspect to question him. The man responded with vague words and hung up the call. Park and Venice rushed to the location to confront him. However, it turned out to be a trap set by the gang. The suspect had gathered a large group of armed goons. A violent fight broke out between them. Meanwhile, Dong-gu had also planned a trap for Lee. While chasing him, Lee unknowingly fell into it. Several of Rajar's men were already waiting there to kill him. Dong-gu quickly escaped from the scene. Despite being outnumbered, Lee relied on his combat experience. Even together, the attackers were no match for him. Lee fought them fiercely and defeated every one of them. At the same time, Park and Venice found themselves in serious danger. They fought bravely against the gangsters. In the end, they managed to overpower most of them. However, both officers were badly injured during the violent clash. Meanwhile, after defeating all the goons, Lee chased Dong-gu to the location where the video was supposed to be filmed. As Lee reached the basement, he heard a girl screaming in fear. He immediately realized that the vile man, Dong-gu, was already inside. Lee tried repeatedly to open the door, door, but it would not budge. He rushed outside, broke a window, and entered the room. Inside, Dong-gu and his accomplice Rajar were both present. Lee attacked them fiercely without hesitation. However, as a police officer, Lee was not allowed to kill them. Taking advantage of this, the criminals struck back with a knife. Lee was severely injured during the struggle. Seeing an opening, Rajar managed to escape. Dong-gu, however, continued moving toward the terrified girl. Lee struck him with full force to stop him. At the same time, Dong-gu stabbed Lee, causing serious injuries. Soon, police sirens echoed in the distance. Dong-gu seized the moment and fled the scene. Lee saved the girl at the cost of his own life. Due to his injuries, he spent the next several days in the hospital. Lee's father was heartbroken after seeing his condition. He regretted ever allowing his son to take such a dangerous job. When Lee regained consciousness a few hours later, his first question was about Dong-gu. His senior officers informed him that Dong-gu had escaped. They also revealed that he had already removed his ankle tracking band. Park had suffered a serious neck injury. He would need to remain hospitalized for several months. Tragically, Venice lost his life due to excessive blood loss during the fight. Hearing this news shattered Lee. He had never imagined witnessing such loss and violence in his line of duty. Later, during Venice's funeral, Lee attended with the others. The mother of the young girl Lee had saved also came to pay her respects. She handed Lee a thank you note written by her daughter. She told him that her daughter was still deeply traumatized. The child was so frightened that she refused to leave the house. However, hearing stories about Lee's bravery gave her strength and hope. Listening to her words, Lee became emotional. He wondered what the innocent girl had done to deserve such suffering. He realized that people everywhere carry the same pure heart. Later, when Lee visited Park advised him to stay away from the case. He said the crime branch would now handle everything, but Lee had already made up his mind. He decided to team up with his friends to capture Dong-gu himself. Without hesitation, his friends agreed to help. Lee still remembered the license plate number of the car he had seen in the basement. Using that information, they tracked down the criminal's address. The four of them went to the location together. They finally found Dong-gu and took him into custody. When one of Lee's friends turned on his computer, they discovered numerous videos involving young children. The sight filled Lee and his friends with uncontrollable anger. In his rage, Lee struck the man in the eye with a trimmer, badly injuring him. Fearing for his life, the man revealed Dong-gu's location. They immediately contacted the police and had him arrested. They decided they would not let Dong-gu remain free any longer. That very night, they planned to capture him. As they prepared to leave, Lee's father stopped them. He warned that the mission was extremely dangerous and begged Lee to quit. Lee calmly explained that Dong-gu was worse than an animal. He said that if they did not stop him now, he would continue committing horrific crimes. Lee added that if everyone lived selfishly and stayed silent, crime would only grow stronger in society. Hearing this, Lee's father realized how mature and wise his son had become. He understood that Lee would not rest until Dong-gu was stopped. The four friends then moved toward the area where Dong-gu was hiding. They searched every hotel in the area, one by one. Soon, one of Lee's friends located Dong-gu. Seeing many plates of food and bottles of alcohol, they realized he was not alone. Rajar was there as well, along with several local goons. Lee ordered his friends to retreat to a safe place. He chose to face them all by himself. From above, Lee's friends monitored the entire fight using their drone. Despite their numbers, the goons were no match for Lee. Fueled by rage, Lee defeated them one after another. As the fight continued, the remaining goons distracted Lee. Dong-gu used this moment to escape. However, Lee's friends kept tracking him through the drone camera. Within minutes, Lee finished off the remaining attackers. He then chased his final target, Dong-gu. Lee stayed on a call with his friends as they guided him using live footage. Soon, Lee caught up with Dong-gu, and a brutal fight broke out. It became clear that Dong-gu was not an ordinary opponent. Lee took several heavy blows during the battle. At one point, Dong-gu nearly defeated him. Suddenly, Lee's friends injured Dong-gu using the drone. Remembering the terrified little girl, Lee rose with renewed fury. He attacked Dong-gu relentlessly and knocked him unconscious. Dong-gu had no strength left to fight or escape. Lee handcuffed him and took him away. In the end, Lee was honored for his courage. The girl he had saved finally stepped outside her home to congratulate him. She had largely recovered from her trauma, and happiness had returned to her face. Lee realized that this was his true purpose in life. Nothing else could ever bring him such fulfillment. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.